Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I'm going to talk about some movies that I've watched recently, and these are all from my own collection. None of these movies here are first-time views. These are all movies I've seen before at some point. Some of them I haven't seen in 15 years or something like that. It's been a while, and they're revisits. But nothing new here that I've watched first time. But I'm going to go through my thoughts on these movies, just general thoughts. These are not in depth. For anything that's in depth, where I give a star rankings or anything like that, I tend to do the movies like separately. I'll do them on their own. This is just a general idea. Start out with, we have the 1941 film The Wolfman. In my opinion, this is the best werewolf film ever made. I've seen a lot of werewolf films, but I'm partial to this. I grew up with this, seen it on TV in the 1970s. Lon Chaney Jr., just properly sympathetic and tragic as the title character. What I really like most about this, it's a universal horror classic, and of course it's got all the trimmings. It's got atmosphere, a lot of fog, a very foggy forest, and a lot of good sets, things like that, and a lot of folklore too. That's why I think this is the best of the werewolf movies. It really feels like it really gets into the myth and the legend of the werewolf and that kind of thing. So I really like that, and the music, everything that comes together to make a universal horror picture a classic. And Lon Chaney's really good. Evelyn Ankers plays the female lead. She's terrific. It's probably my favorite movie that she did. And what can I say all around? Good one. Some other time I'll go through that one in depth. I've been going through all the James Bond movies. I've seen all the James Bond movies at some point in my life, except for Spectre, which I haven't seen yet. That's the last one that was released, and just never got to it. Everybody I talk to says it's underwhelming, so I'm in no hurry to see it, even though I want to judge for myself. But here's one that I got to recently, another view of this. It's Live and Let Die. This is Roger Moore's debut as James Bond, and I think that he really does a great job right off the bat. I mean, he's used to this kind of thing from doing The Saint, which he was in the TV series before this, and I just think he fits right into it. Even though Sean Connery is my favorite Bond, Roger Moore is my second favorite. Roger Moore was the first Bond that I ever saw on the big screen when I first saw my first Bond film, The Spy Who Loved Me. So I'm very much easy on Roger Moore. You know what I mean? I like his comedy quips. I think he has just the right amount of comedy. And one thing I miss in this film is the character of Q is not here. By Desmond Llewellyn. He's not here in this, and that's a shame. It's great to see Jane Seymour. She's very young, very beautiful. A lot of people come down on this film recently. I recently watched some kind of Bond review where a whole bunch of people were each in a group, and they were reviewing all the Bond films. And when they got to this film, they felt it was, obligatory to say, it's kind of a little racist and stuff like that. This film was shot probably in 1972. It was released in 73, and it's what they call a blaxploitation film. Back then, there were a lot of films like that, stuff like Shaft, and the Pam Grier stuff, stuff like, Foxy Brown and Coffee and all that stuff. It was very common to make films like that. At the time, nobody was thinking blaxploitation or anything like that. Come on. And out of all the James Bond films, this is the only one where I could really remember that the villain is really a black person. So, out of 20-something films, so I really don't see it. And lastly, I'll say there's really a very good title song here, Live and Let Die by Paul McCartney and Wings, is one of the best of the Bond songs. This is a good film. It's gotten better. It was never high on my list, but this particular revisit, I thought it was better than I had usually liked it. Not one of the all-time best Bonds, but a good one. Oh, but I can't stand the character of, what is it, that guy Pepper? Was it Sergeant Pepper or Colonel Pepper or Policeman Pepper? Well, I forget what his name is. Whatever. The guy, he's a clown in here. He's ridiculously stupid, and he would be even worse in the next film in the series. But next film up is a 1950s horror film. This was a favorite when I used to grow up and see this on TV a lot in the old days as a kid, called The Monster of Piedras and Blancas. Not the most easy title to pronounce, but after you've been used to it for many decades, it's no sweat. And you might notice here on the cover, this monster is holding a severed head. That's the scene everybody remembers. There's one scene in here where you see the monster walking along, and just they show you a close-up of his hand, and he's carrying this head. You don't see anything else, just kind of the leg in his hand, walking with a head. And the head looks really, really realistic. And any kid who saw this will tell you it was the first time, I think, we ever saw anything that grotesque from a black and white film. This is an old black and white. And there's a famous picture from it there. A lot of people will know this from a record album cover, and I forget offhand what it is. That's the cover of a record album. They really play up the head really big in this, and it's very effective in the movie. But other than that, as much as I love these old monster films, I mean, the monster's very good. You know, it looks like, you know, from the creature from the Black Lagoon variety. I think the guy who designed this might have designed the creature suit too, the creature from the Black Lagoon. So the monster looks good, but the monster doesn't make many appearances on here, and it's kind of dull a lot of times when the monster's not on. Not all films have to have the monster all the time for them to be compelling and interesting, but this particular one, I feel, you know, it's a movie that's worth seeing, you know, once if you've never seen it and you like old 50s movies. The monster, when he is on, is exciting. There's some good monster action when he's on, but while you're waiting, it's a long road to hoe, as they say. And what else can I say about the movie? Oh, the monster has some ridiculous noises it makes. It kind of like squeals like a girl, or something that makes weird sounds. That kind of unintentionally laughable. I wish this was better than it was. I mean, every now and then I still have to pop it on for nostalgia reasons, but it's not one of my go-to recommendations, that's for sure, for anybody. Okay, I got into a Three Stooges kick recently, so I went back and I watched a bunch of their feature films. You know, after they were done with Curly and Shemp and Joe Besser, they went into full-length feature films with Curly Joe DeRita, who, in my opinion, Curly Joe, for me, is the least of the last Stooges. I would rather watch Joe Besser than Curly Joe. I kind of think he's really dull. He's not really into it. He looks like a guy that really doesn't want to be there, and he's just very faintly going through the motions. Ooh, 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 my head, ooh. You know, I really don't see him really trying hard. But the first film that I watched was, these are films I've seen before, you know, Have Rocket, Will Travel, which is their first movie, and it was on this particular disc here. It's a triple feature here, Blu-ray, and you could see there, Have Rocket, Will Travel. That is the first feature they made, and it's a fun feature. Goes by breezily and easy, and the Stooges, even though they're older, are still entertaining. So I like Have Rocket, Will Travel. One film that I do not like, and it's a real disappointment. I had seen this about 15 years ago and really didn't like it. I was very disappointed. I'm a big Stooges fan. I like all the shorts. I like all the, you know, the stuff they never did, really. But this one here, Three Stooges in Orbit, you would think it has the right mix. I mean, I'm a science fiction and horror movie fan of the 50s. This plays up on the Martians, and they're meeting the monsters. The problem with this is it's all over the place, doesn't really know where it wants to go, doesn't really know what it wants to be. And in this particular case, the Stooges, who are noted for their violent, crazy, you know, slapstick and smacking each other around, a lot of their routines are missing from here. They don't seem to really be getting into it as much as they do in the other feature-length films. So this one is really a chore to get through. And in all of these movies, by the way, I should mention, as when they try to get off the Stooges and go into like personal romances and side characters that are kind of like in a love jam or something like that, and they're trying to get their relationship going, that really takes away from the action in a lot of these. It's a treat in this film to see the longtime Stooges foil Emil Sitka as the scientist. But other than that, I really have no need for this. Okay, so that's that. Now, from this last disc, I watched a couple here. I watched the Three Stooges Go Around the World in a Daze which is a takeoff of Around the World in 80 Days, the Jules Verne thing. That's one of the best features. The Stooges are really in good form. Even Curly Joe's not so dull in this one as usual. And there's just a lot of good routines. It's a good story about them going around the world, which gives them an opportunity to get into a lot of different kinds of jams and problems where they go. And one that I hadn't seen in many years was this one here. It's a Western. It's the last real feature that they made, proper feature. They did something else called Kook's Tour in 1970, which was not ever really completed because Larry Fine had a debilitating stroke, unfortunately. But The Outlaws Is Coming is a Western, and it is one of their best features, maybe the best feature. I can't decide whether it's a toss-up for me between Around the World in a Daze and The Outlaws Is Coming as being one of their best feature film. Outlaws Is Coming stars none other than Batman's Adam West. And I have to tell you, Adam West, though, as much as I like him as Batman, and he's very good for that kind of dry delivery, Robin, whatever, we have to get those criminals. He's very dull in this movie. He's really a stiff Adam West. Adam West, to me, in this movie is actually weak. But what's really good is a real attractive woman here who plays Annie Oakley in The Outlaws Is Coming, Nancy Kovac. Don't get that mixed up with Kim Novak. It sounds like Kim Novak. It's not. It's Nancy Kovac. She's really I gotta say it, hot. She's hot, and she looks beautiful, and it's very easy on the eyes. But the most important thing is the Three Stooges, when they're on screen in The Outlaws Is Coming, are absolutely top rate. They may be in their 60s, and they may be getting old. I personally think the Stooges are funny as hell when they're older like this. To see old guys in their 60s smacking each other around, to me, is even funnier than when they were in their 40s, 30s sometimes, I really think it's funny. And they had a lot of really good routines. There were a lot of strong Stooge goofs and violence and mayhem and all the stuff we've come to love about them. There's even a reference in The Outlaws Is Coming to the Beatles, okay? But that's it for this batch. Join me again. Please subscribe if you haven't already, if you like what you see to this channel. And I'll be doing more installments like this where I talk about what I've watched lately. But I see that as I'm doing these little synopsis reviews, these little tiny short little things, I seem to be going more in depth than I would like to do. I don't know. I kind of want to just put movie reviews up by themselves, and do them separate. Let me know what you think. See you later.